Picture this. It's the brand new star-studded Broadway production, Pictures from Home, and it's all about bringing photographs to life. Here's Beth Stevens with a new edition of Building Broadway.
Thanks, Tamsin. We're here in upstate New York where Sharr White lives and writes. Let's take a look.
Sharr, thank you for welcoming us to your home as we talk about Pictures from Home.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming all the way up to Cold Spring.
We're going to talk about the play, but first I want to talk about you becoming a playwright.
Oof, yeah,
because you're a little bit of a slow burn.
Slow burn. It took decades. So yeah, really slow burn. I graduated from acting school at ACT in San Francisco, and I knew I wanted to come to New York. And I moved out, and I had already been writing for friends of mine in school. And it took me probably a couple years out here until I realized I just wanted to be creative on a level that you can't be as an actor. Like, you can't really roll out of bed and act. I mean, essentially the prospect is you wait for somebody to give you a job, and and I just wanted to write. I wanted to be a writer, and I was writing a lot. I was waiting tables. I was self-producing when I could, just these little plays in, like, we did a production in a hotel room over a weekend, and I mean, stuff like that, like little scrappy things. And it was a really long road for me. I would dabble and try to write screenplays and blah, 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 but at a certain point, after 8 years in the restaurant business, I finally got a job as a fashion advertising copywriter. I was writing J. Crew catalogs. I just buckled down for the long haul. I didn't have any prospects. I didn't know anybody. I didn't go to school. I wasn't connected in the industry. And I won a small award, and I thought a prize, and I thought, like, maybe I can get an agent. And so I sent letters out to sort of the few playwriting agents that were out there, and I got an agent. And things started very slowly happening. I got a couple of commissions, and I thought, well, I can't stop now. I have to keep going. And then the big breakthrough for me was The Other Place, which MCC did with Laurie Metcalf and Joe Mantello directing, and that was in 2011. But at the time, I mean, I still had my 9-to-5 job in advertising, so I would leave work. I would run to rehearsals in the afternoon. I would go back to work. I'd go back to I'd go back to rehearsals on the weekend, and I was really hustling. And so finally, after I got really lucky, I had a good couple of years of some good productions, and from there I was able to jump over to television, and I started writing for The Affair. And I did 3 seasons of The Affair, and then my television career started sort of taking off. So then I just had more room finally in my life to write plays and just write all the time, which has been like a miracle for me.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked you about your slow burn of the start of your career is the tenacity that you had, and how that relates to Pictures from Home and Larry Sultan spending almost 10 years deeply investigating his family.
That's interesting. Maybe that's what really appealed to me. He didn't even know it was Pictures from Home at the time. He first got the idea to photograph and interview his parents in 1982. And the book, Pictures from Home, and the book itself is the project. It's not just the photographs. It's the interviews with his parents. It's his meditations on childhood. It's their story of taking part of this, like, great post-war migration westward. And yeah, that project was 10 years. And in the end, that it's the search for the project that makes the project so poignant, I think.
So let's talk about your introduction to this work.
I was in Los Angeles. I was shooting a season of The Affair, and a friend of mine said, you have to come to LACMA, LA County Museum of Art, with me to see this exhibit. And there was this section of the museum that was devoted to Pictures from Home, and there was this text on the wall, this dialogue that was between he and his father, and it was this argument about image and ownership of image, and that made it into the play as well, which is his father says, it's your picture, but it's my image. So whose truth is it? I was fascinated. I was fascinated by the dynamic, by how Larry's father, Irv, could be so rejecting of what Larry did on some profound level, but then also incredibly engaged in the process. And both Irv and Larry's mother, Jean, letting him into their home for 10 years to just photograph and photograph and photograph. Like, that in and to itself, the intimacy of that and the love of that act, and also how much it must have driven them crazy, I knew had to form the core of the play.
Can you tell us a little bit about your process working on it?
Actually, I bought both Pictures from Home and the book from the LACMA exhibit here in home. I was flying home and I bought both books, and I was sitting there and I was scribbling in the books, which is, I love sort of just writing, taking the notes in the books. And I opened my laptop and I just started writing. I wrote the first couple pages of the play pretty much as you see here. I knew that it was going to be an argument about image and ownership of image on all three of their parts. And I wanted them to be enlisting the audience in their side. So I really wrote the first couple pages right then. And then it just, and I will do this. I mean, I'll write a couple pages and I'll be like, I don't know, and I'll set it aside. A couple years will go past. I'll be like, maybe I'll pick it up again. Maybe I'll stab at this again. I always keep a journal about my various projects, and so page 1 is from 2015. It's like, I think maybe this is a play. What kind of play is this? And then literally the next page, it says 2018. I think I'm going to start on this play in earnest. So it took a long time, I think, to sort of start structuring out what this would look like. I wanted it to have a chapter-like feel because of the book. I wanted each scene to be sort of an episode of the creation. One
of the wonderful things about the play is the double vision that we have in the audience. We see the actors and we see the image. And these actors, Danny Burstein and Zoe Wanamaker and Nathan Lane, don't look like the Sultan family, but we accept it wholly.
I feel like we are suspending disbelief anyway. I feel like in some ways this sort of added layer of suspension. In fact, I think like if we were to make them look too much like the Sultan family, in a way that takes you out of it, because you're like, good try, but not all, so we're trying not to get too close to it.
The other thing I love about this play, it's incredibly intimate. And the other thing that's very intimate is a writer working, because it's solo activity.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Are you ready to welcome us into your writing lair?
Sure, if you dare. It's teeny, but yeah, absolutely, come on.
This is so amazing. This really is the dream for a writer.
Yeah.
This is where you do all your work.
This is where I do all my work. This desk, my hair cutter moonlights as a brilliant carpenter, and he built this desk out of an ash tree that we had to take down with this disease. So he milled it and built this custom desk and built this little...
He cuts your hair and he cuts wood.
Yeah. This chair, when I was really down and out and I was living in Hell's Kitchen, I was on the ground floor of 48th and 10th, and this old guy had died across the street and they were just hauling his stuff out, including this chair. I took it and refurbished it, and so that's been my chair forever. And
I'm spying your journal.
So, I mean, I'll keep a journal on all of my projects, even when they don't go anywhere. I mean, some of them, like, I'll get 5 pages and I'm like, like that one's gone. But I've got my other place journal. This is even really before I started the process. But I just, I have everything for everything. So it's like where I'm stuck, and it's sort of about my life. What are my next scenes? I'll write that down too. Like this is Pictures from Home. But then like I've got some like for screenplays or films, and they just don't go, and I'll just set them aside, and it just winds up being just just a record of what I haven't done.
Well, you get to write, and then this is your view. That's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'll write, and then I'll print pages, and I'll sit here and I'll edit and take a little nap.
It's not like when you were salvaging this chair in Hell's Kitchen, I'll tell you.
It is not. There was that chair was in a very different scenario in Hell's Kitchen, without a doubt.